So my name is Matt Evans. I can talk about anything you want. It's one of these things where I did a search on my computer and I realized that I've been talking about iClickers since 2004. And the reason I am here is because I made a phone call to somebody because I wanted something to be a little bit better. And when all of you are talking about this idea that we can make our lives better if we can change something, it's like, oh, if this was just a little different, boy, that would be good for me. Well, guess what? They did it. They had a small team. I still know the product development, whatever his title is now, Stephen, and I every so often will call him and say, hey, what's the status of this that I suggested about 2 or 3 years ago? And it goes up on that ladder. And so it's things that like this that allow us as educators to think more broadly about how do I make my class better? And when I write this up there, if you ever think you've canned a course, then it's probably time to retire. That is something my father told me. And the reason I think of this every time I teach a course is if it gets stagnant, then you teach that way. If you don't keep up with the technology, maybe you know, history, right? Does that ever change?
Yeah.
Oh, of course. But it's like,
It's our interpretation.
right. And so from 1500 to, 1776, you have this class, and how we think about it today might look different than we did if we were being taught by colonial British colonists, right? So what happens is we have to have that same idea that we evolve in our educational ideas and how we present material. So if anything, the takeaway is remember that your students are changing, so you have to evolve to make sure that you're still getting them where they are, not where you wish they were. And that's, I think we all kind of have come through COVID with that in mind. So if we can go on. We all have stories to tell as educators. And for this was my class during COVID. I was in a 450-seat auditorium, and they had assigned seats. And it was like every time that I would go and give a lecture, I felt like I was that Friday afternoon in Long Beach at the end of a 5-day conference, and everyone was gone to the beach except me and about 3 people. But I used iClickers, and everyone there was participating, and I was able to get information the entire time. So I didn't feel as lonely up there as I could have. And if you look, here's my little presentation lectern over here. I actually have, looks like it's a slide on the induction of electricity in a coil. And it was nice because I could tell what they were doing and thinking in real time, and I could model what I did next based on what I was gathering from them. Even if they felt like they were far away, I tried to make it smaller by having all of them participate. So when you think about a classroom, when you look at it, this is one of these slides. I have a bunch of ideas on how I think about classes when I walk into them. And this is one of those classes. So here's your class. And you ask a question. So what is the capital of Arkansas?
You have to know that answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
National.
So what is it?
I was international. I felt very proud of myself.
You're right. Little Rock.
It's Little Rock.
Yeah.
How many people even started thinking about that before it was answered? Barely, right? So if you go to the next slide, the idea that I have in my mind is when you just ask questions, you're getting answers from people that already know what you're doing. So who's my pet student? It's like, oh, the person who answers so quickly. Oh, that's so good. You're going to be my favorite student now. It's just, I want everyone to answer though. And so when I talk about using iClicker, I talk about building community. I talk about everyone participating and using their own brain power as they go through. So as a faculty member, not as the advocate, but as the faculty member, sell what you're doing. Tell them why you do stuff. Because if they think it's busy work and you don't tell them the outcome that you're looking for, then they will push back. And so I think the same thing about when we started using clickers is that we had to kind of say, look, I know you have to buy these things, but here's what I'm getting out of it, which helps me do that next thing for you. All right, so we were talking about some archaic technology earlier. How many people have taught with transparencies? Yeah, there's a few of us. Colored chalk. How many people still use colored chalk in their lectures? Yeah, it's one of the, woo, remember when PowerPoint came out? That was so exciting.
I remember when laptops came out.
I know,
Oh my God.
right. And so this idea of transforming your classes can happen in so many little ways, because if you're always trying to do something a little bit better, it's going to mean changing and being a little bit uncomfortable. So I use Achieve now. I am not a super user. I want to learn from everyone else on how these things work better. And I think that's one of the big things about coming together as a group, is that we talk about things. We might also talk about, administering to other people, or, hey, how are the political, how's the political winds in your state? Because as we come together as educators, we learn from each other in so many different ways. So I just want to thank everyone for actually being here physically, because that is so much different than those little boxes, right? So, all right. So I would like to do a target question. If you've never used a target question, it comes up, but basically you're just putting a dot anywhere on this slide, and then you have to hit that send button at the end, and you should get the pop-up that you have answered that.
But you can pinch to zoom in.
Yeah, somebody just asked, can I change my answer? And the answer to that is you can change up until I close that down. So oftentimes, one of the things that I will do is I'll have a question up there, and I'll look at my answers, and then I'll start talking about it. And then I will kind of give the answer, and all of a sudden I see before me, oh, everyone's shifting to the right answer, right? And it's kind of a game that they play with me. Can they get me to give them the answer that they know is correct before I stop the poll? And so they might start asking questions and things like that.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I think we should stop this. It's not critical. And if we show the results, can we make that bigger?
You can do it for your laptop.
So these are actually all the ones that I own. So
Wow.
I've used them all. And, oh, this is great. The fact is, there's an answer that everyone can have on here, because if you started using it today, that would be your answer. I can also, if you go to the next slide, one of the things I wanted to kind of show is how do I use it in my classroom. So this is the type of question in physics that I would use. And when we talk about wave propagation or energy propagation, and what's easier to move, a heavy chain or a light rope? Anyone? A light rope, right. And that's the idea of inertia. So when you think about inertia, where do you think it would be traveling fastest? Because I've just given you the answer in my mind, but I don't know whether everyone got it right, because you're still answering that. So this is pretty typical. And we can actually give you points if you're correct. So I could actually just grab all of these at the end here and mark those as correct answers. What am I doing here? Thank you. It's not like I haven't done my homework, because I believe in educational research that helps students understand that even if they said, oh, well, I'm a visual learner, sure, I'm going to put a pretty picture up there, but they have to be able to do everything. How do you gather information in any course? You listen to a lecture, you see the slides, you practice, you write things out. And so each one of those things is going to help you learn. So I bring this up the first day. They all say, oh, well, yes, pretty pictures. That's how I learn. So are you going to draw pictures for your final physics test? Right? So, no. So this is a short answer question. Here's the thing. Use learning curve. Be flexible. Okay, these are great. Try new groups features. Use often. Achieve. Be intentional. Very good. So this is one of those things where you've now just collected a whole bunch of data from your class. Okay, and this is really more the, oh, Natalie wanted some ideas. And so she just puts this, every time she does a session online, she does a couple of questions that help gather information about the people in the session so that she can figure out what she's dealing with. And so this is kind of a nice way to do it with the open response. So I'm just going to show a couple of things. This is what my slide looks like every day in class. And what I do is do you have any questions running while they're walking in? So the first question of the day isn't some quiz question. I used to do that a lot, but I like now that I just ask, what do you want to know? And I put down anything that I think that they're going to ask, including my office hours for the day and all that kind of stuff. So it gets them sort of ready to learn. They're ready to go. I get all sorts of things coming in. The one that I keep remembering, get asked that. Can we have a chill Friday? I'm on the verge of collapse. Can you explain the song in terms of physics? I sometimes play songs. Rebecca Black, anyone remember that one? I torture them. And so they actually, somebody responded that. Can we listen to Friday again? What's the best study spot? But here's where this is where I know where all of my organic chemistry students have a test, because they will all come in and say, can you push the homework back a day or two? We have a big test tomorrow, because we have common, groups of people. And if you have 2 tests every time on the same day, it gets old. So why not just move a couple of things around so that they feel better about it? Because they still have to learn the material. And if they get that day and use it effectively, they're going to do better. If they get that extra day and do just as they usually do, then that's okay too. I'm away from that idea that everything has to be really rigid.